Hi, I'm Claire, and today we're talking about books that I wish would be adapted for TV or the cinema, because I think they would make for great TV shows, great movies, and I just want to see the cool sci-fi and fantasy stuff on screen. Now this was a topic of the booktubesff Babbles earlier this year, and I was hoping to film a video on it at the time and ran out of time, and I have not been able to stop thinking about this topic ever since, so this is way past fashionably late into just I have now reappropriated this video topic and I'm just putting it out there completely randomly, but let's go with it anyway, because if I do say so myself, I think this is a pretty good list. Now for years and years, if you had asked me what sci-fi or fantasy thing I wanted to see on screen the most, I probably would have said Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern, because I was so into these books as a teen and they have dragons and I love dragons. However, they also have a lot of other issues and they have not aged the best, so this is not something that I really wish would happen anymore. Plus I legit don't know how they would adapt it and keep the story but get rid of the squeaky bits of the story, because there are a lot of them. But I do still want to see dragons in my fantasy TV shows and movies, and you know, Game of Thrones has shown us that we can now have really beautiful looking dragons on screen. With all that being said, the dragon books that I absolutely would love to see adapted to TV now are the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik. This was published as His Majesty's Dragon in the US, and it's quite a long series. It's finished, it's got 9 books, and it has probably my favorite dragon of all time. I love Temeraire, the main dragon in the series, but I also love about this series that there's a lot of traveling around the world, and there's a lot of looking at how culturally and societally the whole world has adapted to dragons. This is kind of like the Napoleonic War but with dragons, so it's historical, but all the different countries kind of use their dragons differently and relate to their dragons differently, and in some places they are considered above humans in terms of intelligence and the respect that should be given to them, and then in some other countries they are considered more like beasts of burden, almost like working animals. And so I think that would look super cool on screen. It wouldn't be just there are cool dragons, it would be there are all different kinds of cool dragons. I just want a super long TV series of Naomi Novik's Temeraire world. I honestly don't think it's gonna happen now, because Peter Jackson bought the rights for this series after he filmed Lord of the Rings and was looking at doing this, but then he got sucked back into doing the terrible Hobbit movies, and now he's not been working on this. So I know that when rights get optioned, it doesn't mean the thing is gonna happen, but I just wish I had more faith that this one day will happen on our screens, because it is my dearest SFF adaptation wish. Another series which I think would work super well on screen is The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan, which starts with A Natural History of Dragons. This is a series that follows the life of Lady Trent, a dragon expert who is now an old lady and kind of a national treasure, but in her memoirs she recounts her life growing up and becoming interested in dragons and magical creatures, and then going on expeditions to study them. She makes all these cool discoveries about dragons, and throughout the book you've got this a really snarky, gives zero fucks old lady narrating the whole thing, and I think it would be just the best opportunity to have a proper national treasure older actor doing Lady Trent and being completely regal about it. Someone like Dame Judi Dench or Maggie Smith. I actually think those books would suit a BBC miniseries format better than they would either a movie or a TV show, because with something like a BBC miniseries you could have maybe 5 or 6 episodes that are each an hour long, and you could go through basically each of the books, which kind of have little mysteries going on in them that she has to solve at the same time as she's on dragon expeditions. So I think the format would work really, really well for that, and I just want a snarky Lady Trent laying down the law, and you know, she's such a fabulous character. You could really stand to have 2 excellent actresses playing her. My next pick is hopefully a little bit more likely to happen, and that is Ms. Marvel by G. Willow Wilson, or I mean Ms. Marvel in general. I know there's a new run of this going on at the moment. I haven't read it yet, but Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, is a character I really enjoyed in this run, and I think she would make a great addition to the MCU. But until we hear an absolute no, Ms. Marvel is not happening, or until they give us a different Ms. Marvel thing that is not the MCU, I'm going to keep hoping that Kamala Khan pops up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I love her. Next up, I've got another candidate for a BBC miniseries period drama but with magic, and that is The Glamorous Histories by Mary Robinette Kowal. The first book, Shades of Milk and Honey, is a straight up Jane Austen pastiche, Jane Austen but with magic, and I think just that premise would work super well as a BBC miniseries. But the thing is, these books, they really grow and expand and become a lot more than, quote, just a Jane Austen pastiche. This was Mary Robinette Kowal's debut novel. It was her first book, and you can kind of tell when you're reading it. It's very straightforward as a pastiche. I thought it was really good and promising, but the rest of the series really blew my mind, and I think if it were to be adapted now as a whole series, some of the stuff that becomes very interesting later on in the series might be able to be pulled a little bit earlier. Now, I don't know about that for sure, but I do know that a TV show based on these books would look phenomenal, because you have not only ball gowns and fancy ladies with fans and gentlemen in tailcoats and good posture and stuff, but also you have the glamour, this magic that the way it's described in the books is so visual. The characters who can practice magic, they can see the magic in the ether. So it makes it fairly easy to imagine how it would look on screen, and I think for the people adapting this to extrapolate the way it might look and make it look really great and really accurate to the books, and just all of these concepts I think would be relatively easy to represent without going into like tons and tons of VFX, just like a small amount of VFX. I don't know. I know nothing about VFX. I just know that I think this would look really amazing on screen, and I would like to see it, please. Next, we're doing a complete 180 and going into horror with The Murders of Molly Southbourne by Tade Thompson. This is a story about a girl called Molly who lives by the one simple rule that she must not bleed, because when she bleeds, murderous clones of herself sprout from the ground and chase her down to try and murder her. So she's been raised, trained to fight these clones and survive, but aside from some really cool fight scenes in this story, there is a lot more about just the general human condition and survival and what it means to be a person when you're one Molly and then there's a bunch of other Mollys sprouted from the ground intent on murdering you. I think this would be a really fun, probably horror movie to see. The story is quite short, but there is a lot in there that could be explored, and there's also a sequel coming out. That might be more story that could be expanded. Maybe the two of them together could be one movie. I just think it would be really cool with lots of amazing fight scenes, but also really creepy with the Mollys, the murderous clones that look just like our main character but are not really people, or are they? It just strikes me as the kind of thing that could very easily become one of those like cult horror movies that people absolutely love. I know next to nothing about the horror genre, so this is my disclaimer. If you're a horror fan and you disagree with me, this is why. Next up, we've got the Encrypted Series by Seanan McGuire, starting with Discount Armageddon and continuing with many more books about the Price family, who are cryptozoologists. They study magical creatures and basically the kind of creatures that we would call monsters. They study those creatures, but they also look out for them and make sure that humans don't murder them, but also on the flip side, they make sure that monsters don't go around just eating humans because, you know, they want to keep the existence of monsters and magical creatures on the down low so that they don't get chased and murdered by humans, which is what tends to happen when humans hear about cryptids. This story is really, really great fun. It has a lot of cool bad guys, a lot of cool magical creatures. The family itself is really, really fun. We follow different characters in different books. The 3 Price siblings in particular. There's a bunch of short stories that exist for this series that are available. There's a lot of material out there for a nice long-running series like a Buffy or a Supernatural kind of series. I just love these books so much. They very often take premises that you kind of feel like, is this a bit of a crack premise? Like, there is one book where this character, Verity Price, is actually on a reality TV dancing competition. But like, it super makes sense and it's so creepy. I can also like just imagine myself as a teenager watching an episode of this once I was done watching an episode of Charmed and an episode of Buffy. Like, I feel like it would fit sort of on the same TV schedule as those things. You might see like a themed evening for magically fantasy TV shows with those 3 things on, and it wouldn't be weird. So that's kind of the best description I can give of it. Next up is The Haunting of Tramcar 015 by P. Gillet Clark, which came out earlier this year. It's a novella. It's set in this alternate history steampunk Cairo. The setting is really, really wonderful. It's obviously about a haunting happening in a tramcar, as per the title. It's about these 2 investigators, agents working for the government department in charge of supernatural occurrences. They're investigating this haunting in this tramcar. It takes them all over the city. They have to disguise themselves to try and trick the spirit that's haunting the tramcar. They end up in the middle of a giant protest for women's suffrage. It's just really, really cool and adventure-y. I think it would suit like a steampunky adventure film perfectly. The moment I thought of it, I couldn't stop thinking how much I want a film of this novella exactly in the vein of the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies. I think it would fit super, super well, be really, really fun. Someone please, please make that happen. I feel like we would all like to see that. And finally, my last pick is American Hippo by Sarah Gailey. This is a bound up of River of Teeth and Taste of Marrow. They're 2 novellas in this series. These novellas are alternate history and they are set in the Wild West in the US. Apparently at some point there was a proposal to try and import hippos into the country to be beasts of burden, and that never actually happened in real life, but in these novellas it happened. Hippos are everywhere. They are used to like ranch, I don't know. Anyway, they're cowboys and they're riding hippos. And it's cool. It's really, really cool. I really feel like the overriding feeling that I had when I was reading those books was, oh my god, so cool. These are so cool. Just the general like swaggering, swashbuckling. I don't even like westerns and I was reading these going like, this is cool. So anyway, I want a western with hippos and with those characters from these books because I absolutely love them. I got to care about their stories very, very easily. There's betrayal and lots of violence that I think would be fun to watch on screen. So there you go. I would like some westerns with hippos in them, please. So that's it. This was my SFF adaptation wish list. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what stories you would like to see adapted and in what kind of way you think they would work as TV shows or as movies. And let me know if you agree or disagree with me about any of the stuff that I talked about in this video. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out a previous video on screen right now. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button that's on my face for a new video from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.